Commitments matter. Even when they're inconvenient and it's early and you don't want to get up and it's cold, commitments, they confront our comfort. They expose our excuses, but they can form us into people who can be relied upon. I know that making and keeping commitments is not easy. It's messy. We won't do it perfectly. We have people around us who hold space for us and stay committed to us, so we keep making them anyway. Think about a marriage vow. Like at a wedding, people make these vows to each other, to have and to hold, till death do us part, and for better, for work, sickness and in health. We add our own vows, like I'll always put you first, I'll always serve you, you're my number one, always. I don't know a couple that has kept all these vows perfectly. We all seem to miss the mark. And I know not all marriages work out, and even thinking about vows might be painful to think about how you've been let down, how fallible people are. But we keep on making vows. I'm sure there's a wedding happening today somewhere where someone's making these exact same vows, and they're gonna fail at them. But vows aren't guarantees, but they're a hopeful goal for us. They're a trajectory for which we aim, something to aim toward. And because we don't do them perfectly, we don't throw them away or give them up. We come back to them. We recommit to them. Because vows aren't about flawless performance. They're about faithful presence. Aiming for them despite the fact that we can abandon and betray and scatter. Marriage is a picture of covenant. A picture where you're invited to keep on choosing over and over and over again. It isn't about coercion or manipulation. It's about choosing to remain committed. And it's the kind of faithfulness we're called into as God's people. In a culture of subscriptions and easy cancellations, of busyness, so easy to say, I did it for a couple of days, but I can't do it anymore. I'll do it for a week and then give up on it. Or how often do we say, I'm sorry, I just didn't have time. Can I say today that I didn't have time is a massive lie that we tell ourselves? We all have the same 24 hours in every day. From the teen flipping burgers, to mom taking kids to practice and to sports and to dance, to the CEO at a huge company, we've all got the same time. The difference is priorities. When we say I don't have time, what we're saying is that wasn't my priority. And that's okay. You can't just be honest with yourself. Like, that wasn't my priority. It's okay to say. But if you keep saying didn't have time, you're letting time be this villain for you and you're not being honest with yourself about what your actual reality is in life. Commitments force us to face our priorities. I remember back on my first jobs, my first kind of real-ish jobs, I was a paper boy, delivering papers, 6 a.m., cold Canadian winters. I remember just getting my yellow and black winter jacket on and my hat. And I had this Walkman I'd make mixtapes on, and these yellow headphones to put in my ears. And I'd put the papers on, I'd sludge through the Canadian snow and slush, and it was horrible. Especially Saturdays. They'd shove the papers full of extra flyers and stuff. They're twice as heavy and twice as thick. I have to put on 2 bags, one on each side, and just try to make my way down the street wearing an extra 50 pounds. I'm like 12 years old. I remember some mornings I'd knock on my mom's door and be like, Mom, would you drive me today? And she would roll out of bed and put her coat on and start the car up and crank the heat, bundled up in the driver's seat. I'd open the door, running out, dropping paper off, running back, grab more papers. She's like, close the door, you're letting the cold air in. Oh man, I had this one customer. If I was like 5 minutes past 7 when they were due, He'd be calling the paper saying, "Where's my paper?" And I'm like, "Bro, I'm 12 years old. I've been your paper boy for like 4 years. It's going to get there. Wait 1 second. I'm trying my hardest, okay?" The times that I wanted to quit, I didn't want to get up. I'd oversleep. Mom would call down, "Josh, it's almost 7. Get out of bed." Man, there were times where I didn't want to do it. My parents, being good parents, would say, "You know what? You committed to this. You got to do what you said you're going to do. You got to get up. If you want to quit, you can quit someday, but not today. Because today you got papers to deliver." And every paper I walked to a door, every paper I shoved in my bag was an act of commitment. And it was shaping me and forming me and teaching me as a kid how to make and keep commitments to people in my life. As much as I hated that job at times, it taught me something about life. Commitments matter. Even when they're inconvenient and it's early and you don't want to get up and it's cold, commitments, they confront our comfort. They expose our excuses, but they can form us into people who can be relied upon. I'm not saying if you're stuck in a scenario that's bad for you, it's unhealthy, it's toxic, it's hurting you, you should just hold on and stay because you're guilty, you're forced to. There are things that you have to let go of at times. There are things that aren't life-giving for you, that aren't healthy for you, that aren't going to feed you or nourish you. I think God might be calling some of us into things that are going to be good for us, that are going to encourage, that are going to help us. You might need to discern today what you need to cut out of your life and find some commitments that are going to be good for you, that are going to be what God is calling you into. Make some room, some space for something new. Here's why I think all of this matters. Is that when we make and keep commitments, even small ones, we're formed. We're shaped away from these non-committal, flaky, easy-canceling people, these habits, towards a reliable, faithful presence in our world. We can be a reflection of this God who has always made and kept commitments to his people, even though they abandoned him. We can become these image bearers of what God is like. We were created to mirror God's covenant faithfulness in our world. When you show up for somebody, when you keep your word, you hold space for each other in the church, you're more than just being reliable. You're bearing God's image. You're showing our world that that's what his faithful presence is like. If you're here back during our Nest initiative about a little over a year ago, we had this idea of making space in our building, our budget, and our lives. We had this one person we were each praying for, someone that we're going to pray for and be with, and when the opportunity came, allow ourselves to be invited in. We're saying, I'll be present with you. I'll be committed to you, waiting for your invitation, because that is what God is like. He's present and patient and waiting to be invited into covenant. And he's already paid the price. It's not about effort or scheduling. It's about formation, being people who reflect God's character. People are longing for people to be present with them over time. Today in this space, I want to invite you to consider, is there something in your mind or space in your life that God might be inviting you to make a new commitment? Maybe you already have this idea in your head. Maybe in your mind for the past weeks, you've been thinking, I really feel like it's time for me to do this. You have been putting it off, or you may have a really clear picture today what that looks like for you. I would say just be willing to step into that. But today, if you're not totally sure what it might be or what your next thing might be, a practice you could pick up, I was going to give you a couple quick ideas, some small things. Right here at Westwinds, some easy ways to make a small commitment be joining one of our serving teams, our volunteer teams. It's like twice a month. You show up, you hold the door, you make some coffee, and in that process, you make space for somebody to feel welcome, to feel hospitable. Maybe you want to practice being committed to giving. Maybe you want to give $1 a week from now till Christmas, let's say. I don't care how much it is. But you're like, you know what? I want to work on being a more committed kind of person who makes and keeps covenants with people to be a better reflection of Jesus. So I want to give $1 a week because I said I would. I'll do that for 12 weeks. And that might be your next step. Maybe it's being in a table. Our table season launches today, the kickoff. It's not too late, you could be in a table. Maybe just being here. Maybe you haven't been here like 6 weeks and today you're like, you know what? Today I'm going to go. And for you, that's what you need. Like, I just need to be with my people in God's presence on a regular basis. And for 4 weeks, I'm going to be here. Or it's possible that your life is just chaos. You've got so much going on. You've got kids you're driving everywhere. You got a busy job. You don't know how you can take on one more thing. You're overwhelmed. I would just say, would you let us hold space for you? Let us be committed to you. Let's be a space where you can just be and rest and be restored. Let's be a place where you're welcomed. And we will hold that commitment to you because that's what God does for us. Let us put that on display for you. And if your life is too crowded, if you have too much going on, but you know there's things that God's inviting you into, but you got to cut something out, I would say figure out what to cut out today. There might be good things in your life that you like, but they aren't the best things. They're getting in the way of what God is inviting you into. Don't be afraid to reorganize your priorities. It's like, God, what do you have for me? What's going to impact your kingdom? What are you inviting me into this morning? Yes, we'll fail at some of these. We won't keep them all perfectly, but that doesn't make them meaningless. The point isn't about perfection, but about faithful presence over time. We keep showing up. We keep returning again and again and again. And in that process, in that practice, we're shaped into people that look like Jesus. From Genesis 15 to the Last Supper to the early church, it's the same story. Making and keeping commitments, it forms us into people who say Jesus is Lord of all in our lives. We orient ourselves around that truth. We embody his presence in our world and put his covenant promises into action and on display for the world around us. So may we, as God's covenant people, invited into connection with him, keep showing up, keep saying yes. As we make and keep commitments, we embody a God who's never stopped making and keeping commitments to his people.